Hi guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. This is Lowell Stitches. In today's video, we're going to be learning how to make this beautiful gathered gown, and it's a short gown and a puff sleeve, and it has this extended waistline. Let's get right into it. Before we start, I would like to thoroughly explain this. The measurements we'll be needing are your shoulder measurement, your shoulder to bust point, your bust measurement, that's the circumference, your vertical and round under bust measurement, your waist measurement and round waist measurement. Notice that I didn't say half waist, I said waist measurement, and then your full length. I'm going to drop a picture to show how you're supposed to measure where your waist measurement should be. So your waist measurement should be around where this arrow is pointed at. That should be around where your natural waistline is. That is the waist measurement we'll be working with. So now let's get right into it. So we are cutting the front part first, and my fabric is folded into two. And as you can see, I already have my starting line, my chest line, bust point, under bust and waistline. So now let's start by measuring our shoulder. The shoulder I'm working with is 15. 15 divided by 2 is 7.5. I'm going to be adding half extra inches allowance, making everything 8 inches. So I'm going to mark that out. Now I'm going to come to my chest line, and I'm also going to impute the measurement I imputed on the shoulder point. I'm going to be imputing it on the chest line. And now I'm going to be using my ruler to connect it. Now we're going to mark out the neckline. So the width I'm working with is 3.5 inches on fold. I don't want the neckline to be too wide. So 3.5 inches for the width and then 3 inches for the depth, which I later increased to 3.5 inches because it was a little bit tight. So I made it of 3.5 inches by 3.5 inches. And I'm going to use my curve ruler to connect it. Remember, we are cutting the front part and it is on fold. So now the next thing we're going to do is to get this slant. So I'm going to come down by 1 inch, and then I'm going to connect my line from my neckline to my shoulder line. So now we have our shoulder slant. So I also added half inches allowance to the shoulder line. That's for joining the seam, the joining allowance rather. Next, we're going to take the bust measurement on the chest line. The bust I'm working with is 33 divided by 4 is 8.2, and then I added 2 extra inches sewing allowance. So I'm going to impute the same measurement I have on my chest line on my bust line. Now on the under bust measurement, the round under bust I'm working with is 29 divided by 4, then plus 2-inch allowance, and then I connected it. The waist measurement is 29 inches divided by 4. I have about 7.2 inches. I'm going to mark that out, and then I'm going to add 2 extra inches for sewing allowance, and now I'm going to connect. Now we're going to get our dart. So the easiest way to get your dart, the way we do it is you're going to be dividing your nipple to nipple. In my case, I'm using 8 inches divided by 2, that's 4. So nipple to nipple, I'm measuring 4 inches up to the bust point. I'm going to come down by 1 inches from the bust point, and then I'm going to connect. And now on that waistline, I'm going to be taking half inches on I'm going to be taking half inch on both sides, and then I'll connect from that waistline up to the bust point. Remember, I came down by 1 inch from the bust point, and that is it. We have our dart, and now we have to replace the total of 1 inch that we added to back to the waistline, or else we're going to have shortage. So now we're going to connect it upward. Now we're going to make our armhole curve. I'm going back from that shoulder slant. I'll measure to my chest line. I have 7 inch left, so I'm going to be dividing that 7 inches by 2, which is 3.5 inches. I came in by half inches, and then I'm going to be connecting the curve. I hope you understand it. It's quite simple. So again, on your shoulder slant, you're going to come down to measure from to your chest line, whatever you have. In my case, I have 7. I'm going to divide it by 2, and then on that midpoint, come in by half inch, and then use your curve ruler to connect it. And here you go. So remember that the style has a curve on the waistline. So we are going to be adding extra inch allowance. We're going to be adding extra inches allowance to it. So I want to add extra 4 inches allowance to it to give it that curve. You see how like an asymmetrical um waistline. So we're going to be doing that. So I'm going to be adding extra 4 inches to it. I'm just going to measure that 4 inches round, and then we can give our curve. Guys, if you haven't done so, please subscribe to my channel, like, share, and turn on post notification. So now what we're going to do, I am done marking the extra 4 inches I added. We're going to be using our freehand. You can use your curve ruler. This won't really do it for me, so that's why I'm making use of my freehand. But we have other curve ruler that could work. I haven't tried using a boning to it. I'm just trying to show you my process. I also tried using a boning, but it didn't work. So I ended up using my freehand. So I just started from that point, and I'm going to be using my chalk to just make a curve to meet the waistline on the side. Just watch as I do it. You don't need to hurry while doing this. If you don't get it right, you can clean it and start over again. So this is how I did it. I just did use my free hand to make the curve, and I just did it till I was satisfied with the shape I had. So after marking out the shape, the next thing we're going to do is to add extra sewing allowance. So for this case, I'm going to be adding 1 inch extra sewing allowance. So I'm just going to follow the shape. You know, it is no longer straight anymore, so you have to follow the shape and just mark out your extra sewing allowance. And after doing all of this, we're going to be cutting out the front part because we are basically done. And now we're going to be cutting out the back with the front. So I'm done cutting out the front, and I've placed the front on the back. The back is also folded into two. Remember, the back has a zipper, so we have to add the allowance to it. For this dress, I'm going to be adding 1.5 inches zipper allowance. So I'm just going to mark that and connect the lines, and then we can start cutting out the back. So now we're going to be placing the front fabric on the line of the zipper allowance. So what I mean is, you're not going to be placing it all the way to the end. You know, we're going to be adding zipper allowance. So we've already added 1.5 inches zipper allowance. So our front fabric is going to be placed on that line to guide the cutting of the back fabric. The first thing we'll do is to mark out the neckline. So I want the neckline to be about 1 inch or 1.5 inches. So I'm just going to come up from the depth of the front neckline by 2 inches, since we use 3 inch as the depth of the front one. So I'm just going to connect this to the shoulder line. So now we have the neckline. The width is still 3.5 inches, and then the depth now is about 1 inches to 1.5 inches. So now what we're going to do is to just cut out. It is as simple as that. It is not a complicated style where you need to be measuring this and measuring that. It's quite straightforward, and the fabric I used is a little bit stretchy, so it's going to still fit on your body without doing a lot of manipulations. I'm done cutting it out. Remember that our front is still placed on the back. So now we want to eliminate zip bulge. So now we're going to be needing our half waist measurement at this point. So I'm just going to be measuring my half waist measurement, which is 16. I'm going to measure it and make sure it extends to my back fabric, like the fabric here, the back fabric, because that is where we need the half waist measurement. So I'm just going to take out these front bodice. I'm just going to take it out. Now, on your half waist measurement, you're going to come in by 0.75 inches. You're going to come in and then use your ruler to connect back to the down part and then back to the upper part. Just watch as I do it. Also, you need to replace the intake you took at the half waist measurement for the back on the waist measurement, or else you're going to have a shortage. So please replace whatever you took out on that back part to your side waist measurement. You're going to see the reason why I said so. I actually made a mistake. I was supposed to add it, but I forgot. So when you're doing yours, before you cut out the entire back fabric, add take out your zip bulge, what is going to be causing the zip bulge. And also, let's say for example I took out 0.7, I'm going to be replacing the 0.7 on the side half waist and connect it back. So as you can see in the video, you're going to be cutting out whatever you cut, the mark you made, you're going to be cutting it out. So this is the back and we have the front. So what we'll do next is to turn the neckline of both the front and the back with a bias tape. I'm going to be using a bias tape to turn the neckline of both the front and the back. And also I'm going to be using my sewing machine to join the back by, remember we gave 1.5 inches zipper allowance. I'm going to be measuring that as I sew, and I'm going to sew it across down like this. I'm going to do that and show you how it looks. So I am done doing that. I have turned the neckline with a bias tape. I have joined the back part, and I've also sewn my darts. If you don't know how to sew a dart, you can just let me know in the comment section. I'm going to make a special video for that. So I've also given it a very good ironing. I've done the dart for both the front and the back. So what we're going to do next is to join it by the shoulder and also join it by the side. So I'm going to be using my pin to secure both sides and try to make sure it's equal, and also the shoulder line. If you notice, the front is no longer equal with the back, and this is because I forgot to add the 0.75 I took out from the back. So I've pinned everything in place, pinned the shoulder together. So what we're going to be doing next is to mark out the points we are going to be sewing on our sewing machine. So we are going to be imputing our body measurement. So I'm going to start by marking out the horizontal measurement first. I'm coming down by ½ inch because remember that we added extra ½ inches allowance for sewing at the shoulder. From the shoulder, I'm going to mark out the bust point, which is 10. I'm going to mark out the under bust, which is 13. And then I'm going to be marking out the waist, which is 18. I am also going to repeat the same thing on the other side. Marking out the vertical measurement would help me measure the horizontal measurement properly. It will serve as a guide. Yeah, let me put it that way, while we're measuring the circumference. So now we're going to start with the bust. Now that our fabric is no longer folded into 4, now it is folded into 2. So what are we going to do? We are going to be dividing the bust measurement by 2 this time around. 33 divided by 2, we have 16.2 inch, 16.5 inches. So whatever allowance we have left on the side, we're going to be dividing it into 2 and then spread it across. Just watch as I do it. So here we have 3.5 inches as the allowance remaining. I divided it by 2. I have about 1.5 thereabout, or 1.7. I mark out that point and I went back to the other side and mark out the remaining allowance I divided into 2. So I'm going to be repeating the same thing too. The under bust divided by 2 is 14. I'm going to mark that out, and then I'm going to measure what I have left. I have around 4.5 inches left. I'm dividing it into 2. I'll connect it back to that line, and I'm also going to take the remaining one to the other side and connect. So that is the same thing you're also going to do on your waist rather. Remember that we are not using the half waist, so you're just going to be working with the waist. So I have done the same thing on the waist point. You notice that we still have about 3 inches allowance, and you remember we gave 1 inch. So I'm just going to connect down with my chalk on both sides. We are still going to trim out the shape we want after we're done joining. So I'm going to sew by the side and also by the shoulder. So we are going to recut the shape on the top. As you can see, the thing is not really how do I put it, the shape is not really obvious now, so we have to recut it to make sure we have exactly what we want. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold my fabric into 2 again and try to pin it and put it in place. After folding, we're going to measure again from the shoulder line. We're going to measure the waist. We're going to mark the waist. Remember, it was it is 18. So I'm going to just mark it this way. So this measurement is what is going to guide the way we make our curve. So I'm just going to use my pin to hold it in place so we don't make any mistake. So I'm done pinning. We're going to now, from that other part, from the front we added 4 extra inches allowance. So we're going to be marking from that point back to the side waist. I hope you understand. Back to the side waist. 18 plus 4 inches is 22. So from that 22 mark, without the allowance, we're marking from there, and then we're going to make the curve back to the 18 inches. I hope you understand. So after marking our curve out, we're just going to add the sewing allowance, which is 1 inches. I'm just going to mark it from the waistline, and then I'll connect it back. Of course, so I'm going to add the same allowance down there, and then we cut. I am done cutting, and this is how it looks. So the next thing we're going to do, you see how that shape, the curve, is already well defined now. So now what we're going to do is to open it up and measure whatever we have round. That is what is going to guide what we're going to be cutting for the gathers part. So I'm just going to open it up by the zipper allowance, and then we'll measure it round. I have opened it, so we're going to start from one edge, the other edge there, and we're going to use our measuring tape to measure the whole circumference. I hope you understand. This will guide us to know what we need for the gather. So I'm just going to measure it round and see what we have. So the circumference is 42. We're going to be multiplying 42 by 4. That is going to be the whole width of our gathered fabric. I've cut out the fabric. The width is 170. You remember 42 times 4 is 168, so I just approximated it. I have 170. And then for the length of the gathers, we're going to be minusing our waist measurement from the full body measurement. Do you understand? So I minus 18 inches from 42 inches. 18 inches from 42, that's the full body measurement. The full body measurement is 42 minus 18 inches for the upper part. We have 24 inches, and I added 2 extra inches allowance, and that's it. So what we're going to do next is to gather the whole fabric. That is the width. I hope you understand. For the length, you're going to minus your actual body length from the upper part, which is 18 inches. So now I'm going to gather and show you how it looks. Then we're going to attach it to the upper part. So I am done gathering. And also, the reason why we gathered multiplied by 4 is because you want your gathers to be very full. If you want it to be very full, you can't be stingy with your fabric. Multiplying by 2 won't work. It won't give you that full gathers. That is why you need to multiply by 4. And in this case, we are able to do that because the fabric is very light. You can't do this with a thick fabric. It has to be a light fabric. So I am done gathering, and what we're going to do is I measured the gathers I have and made sure it is 42. And then what I'm going to do next is to just sew on the waist like this. So when you're done gathering, measure what you've gathered and make sure it is up to the length of the circumference you measured, and then sew on it. I'll do that and show you how it looks. I'm done sewing the gathers to the upper body, and this is how it looks. Make sure you overlock everything so it shouldn't look rough. The next thing we're going to do is to fold the edge. Remember, we gave about 2 inches allowance, so I'm going to be folding the edge with the allowance I gave. So you fold it. That's the first thing that you're going to do. Just fold it this way twice, and then you sew by the allowance you give. That is what is going to determine how you're going to fold it. So I'm just going to come down a bit, like 2 inch from the waistline, and then I'm going to be sewing. I'm going to close it up all the way to the down. So at this point, how long your zipper is, it is what is going to determine how open it's going to be. So 2 inches is okay because my zip is not as long. So from that point, you're just going to close it up, and just the way I'm illustrating it, just sew it down. And then after doing that, you can now fix your zip. I'm going to do that and show you. So this is it, guys. I am done attaching the zip, and this is how it looks. I'm also going to give it a very good ironing. So the next thing we're going to do is to attach our sleeve to it. So I'm just going to cut off any excess I have. I'm going to cut it off the armhole to make it equal, and then we're going to start cutting our sleeve. So I've already folded out my sleeve and it is folded into four. We are cutting both the right and the left sleeve together at once. So the length I have measured here is 11 inches, but the actual length of the sleeve I'm working with is 8 inches and the round sleeve measurement is 11. But because it's a puff sleeve with an elastic, I'm going to be adding extra 2 inch or 1.5 inch to it, and this is because you want that puffiness to show, so you need to add extra allowance to the actual length. So the total measurement I have now is 11 inches, and this is because this is the fabric I have left, so we're working with 11 inches. This is going to include the folding allowance and the allowance that we added at the beginning. So on fold, the total length I have is 14 inches. So I'm going to divide it by 2, which is about 7 inches. I'm going to mark that 7 inches. And then from there, it's just freehand. I'm just going to mark out that armhole curve. So that old 7 inches is going to be on fold, is what we are going to be gathering. Do you understand? So just mark out your curve and then connect it like this. It is as simple as ABC. And then we're going to cut it out. It is also important that you measure whatever you have on that armhole and make sure it is up to what you have on your armhole. So I have 9 here, which is okay. So now I'm just going to cut this out. So after cutting, make sure you make a notch on it for you to know your midpoint. So what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to open this up, and on that point, that is where that straight, as if it's a straight line, start from. We're going to be sewing a loose stitch on it because we are going to be gathering that part. So you're just going to sew a loose stitch on this part, and then we're going to gather it. Then on the other edge, we are just going to be folding it in. Make sure whatever you fold in is enough for your elastic to pass in. So I'm going to be using this 0.5 inches elastic. So I'm going to fold it in and pass it through it. So I'm just going to go and gather it and fold the edge and show you how it looks. So I have gathered the upper part and this is how it looks, and I've also folded the down part. So now we're going to be attaching our elastic. Remember I said the round sleeve measurement is 11. So I minused 3 inches from 11. I have 8 inches in total, and that is what I cut out for my elastic. So that is what we are going to be passing through this casing that we did. I've also attached my safety pin, so that is what I'm going to use to pass it through it. So I'm just going to pull it in this way. So I'm just going to pull it this way. When you're passing your elastic, be careful so that the elastic does not go in completely. Yeah, you want it to stop at that point. So I'm just going to use a pin to just hold it down this way before I continue dragging the other elastic out on of the other edge. So guys, this is it. Make sure that your elastic comes out from the other edge and then you top stitch on both side of the elastic to keep it in place. See how beautiful it looks already. It's already giving us that puff sleeve vibe. After doing this, cut off your excess and fix it to your armhole, and that's it guys. Thank you for watching guys. See you on the next one.